Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Scale Modeling with Mike Ashey. Today we're going to take a tour of one of my tape-ups of Monogram's old 148 scale B-26 Marauder. Yes, I know, everybody knows that kit is notorious for a bad fit, but if you take your time and follow some basic and fundamental techniques for assembly, you can build it up into a really nice looking replica of a 148 scale B-26 Marauder. But what I do when I do those tape ups, there's a purpose behind that. And that is that it gives me a sense of the size of the model. It gets me thinking about my assembly sequence, my painting sequence, and how I'm going to add details such as resin aftermarket products or photo etch aftermarket products. And more importantly, it allows me to identify any kit flaws, any warps, where seams are going to need work, where there are voids between the attachments of parts, like on the engine nacelles to the wing assemblies. And it gets me thinking about how I'm going to fix these problems. And in addition to that, I write notes on the assembly instructions so that I don't forget where all of these identified problem areas are. So let's take a tape-up tour of the Monogram 148 scale B-26 Marauder. All the major parts, including the interior bulkheads and the cockpit, have been cleaned up and taped together. Be sure to check the gluing surfaces, as there are tiny bumps and ridges on some of them. The B-26 is a bad tail dragger due to the location of the wings and the landing gear. It takes a lot of lead weight to get the model to sit correctly on its landing gear. The elevator assembly has a tight fit into the opening on the fuselage, but the forward area will need some filling, sanding, and shaping to get it to fit and blend into the contours of the fuselage. The underside of the elevator will also need some filling, sanding, and shaping on both sides to get it to sit flush with the fuselage surface. The door panels will also need some work. Both upper wing connection points to the fuselage have voids, but the right wing is slightly larger than the left wing void. The underside wing to fuselage fit has larger voids than the top area does. The bottom fuselage fit is also not as good as the top. The right wing light opening has a slight misalignment between the wing halves, and there's a void to fill. The left wing light's alignment between the wing halves is better, but the void is just as pronounced as on the right wing. The right wing also has a slight misalignment with the fuselage. The hatch detail will get damaged when working on the seams, so both hatches will need to be sanded off and replaced. The engine cowlings are a three-piece assembly, and the two upper pieces are not molded correctly, and they have a very poor fit. The void between the upper engine cowling sections is also not consistent. The void between the engine cowlings and the aft engine nacelles will also need to be corrected. These two stubs on the inside areas of the separate upper cowling parts are needed to keep the upper cowling level with the upper engine nacelle. The landing gear can be added after the model is assembled and painted if you do not glue the forward landing gear bracing onto the main gear until after the two parts are installed inside the landing gear bay. The right wing engine nacelle inside area fit to the wing is pretty good, and there's no step between the parts along the seam line. The right engine nacelle outside area fit to the wing is not so good, and there's a step between the parts along the seam line. Note the numbering on these parts. The left engine nacelle outside area fit to the wing has both a void and a step along the seam line. The left engine nacelle inside area fit to the wing is the same as the outside area. The rear engine nacelle parts cannot be fitted as shown because they will not be positioned correctly on the surface of the model. The parts need to sit flush with the surface of the wing and the left and right flaps. And the proper positioning of these parts creates a really big void on the bottom of each nacelle that will need to be filled. Both Bombay bulkheads have small voids that will need to be filled. There are also small voids on the upper areas of the Bombay. There are also misalignments between the fuselage halves at the forward landing gear opening, the cockpit opening, and the upper turret opening. I used two kits for my build. My first issue was with the dark green plastic that was hard but not brittle. I ended up using the gray plastic version for my build, which apparently was made in China, and the plastic was soft. This plastic did not respond well to rescribing the surface, so I recommend using the dark green plastic version for your build. It's also odd that this stamp says Revell. Here's my completed build. The upper wing to fuselage voids have been filled, the elevator area has been contoured into the fuselage, the wing lights have been fixed, and there are even resin lenses installed. And lastly, the kit's engine cowlings look good after some filling, sanding, and shaping. The backside engine nacelle parts are correctly positioned and they look good. The indentations for the formation lights were filled and replaced with tiny decals. The underside voids between the engine nacelles and the lower wing areas look good after filling, sanding, and shaping. The engine cowlings also have a tight fit to the nacelles. The voids inside the bombays have been filled, and the fuselage misalignments have been eliminated. The upper surface area of the engine cowlings has a smooth transition to the engine nacelles. Note how the decals look like they're painted onto the surface of the model. Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed the tape-up tour of Monogram's old 148 scale B-26 Marauder. Only 3 kits have ever been produced in 148 scale of the Marauder. You have the old Aurora kit, which is kind of a dog. You have the AMT kit, which is also in 148 scale and not a bad kit, and the Monogram kit. There are several kits in 172nd scale, but the 148 scale kits, if you take your time and add some details to them, you can really make these old kits shine. Have a great day and be safe.